Hi there, you're on the channel Forsaken Joe, and I'm about to tell you a story I never thought I'd share with anyone. It all started the night I checked into a hotel and realized something wasn't right. Not with the hotel, not with the trip, but with my own life. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, and I stepped out into a hallway that smelled faintly of fresh paint and expensive perfume. I was bone-tired from traveling, but the sound of laughter coming from down the corridor made me stop in my tracks. It wasn't just laughter, it was her laugh, my wife's laugh, that familiar melodic tone I'd know anywhere. For a moment, I froze like someone caught in a dream. My wife, Aria, was supposed to be 3 states away on a work exchange trip. She'd left just 3 days ago, kissing me on the cheek and promising to call every night. Yet here I was, standing in a hallway miles away from home, listening to a laugh that belonged to her. I followed the sound quietly, my sneakers barely making a noise against the plush carpet. The closer I got, the clearer it became. It was her, Aria. I peeked around the corner, and my stomach dropped like I'd missed a step on a staircase. She was there, right in front of me. My wife, dressed in casual jeans and a hotel lanyard around her neck, chatting with 2 colleagues outside the gym entrance. She didn't look guilty or surprised, just happy. Happier than I'd seen her in months. And I wasn't supposed to be here to see it. I ducked back before she noticed me. My heart was racing, my hands sweating. A million questions flashed through my mind. Why hadn't she told me we'd be in the same city? Why this hotel? And why did I feel like some uninvited stranger spying on my own wife? I went back to my room, shut the door, and just sat on the edge of the bed. Every sound from the hallway made me jump. I couldn't shake the image of her smiling so freely with those colleagues, like she was living in a world where I didn't exist. That's when I decided I wasn't going to announce I was here, not yet. I needed to know the truth, whatever it was, before I opened my mouth. Later that night, when I heard her voice again, I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I sat in that hotel room like a ghost, the dim light from the hallway seeping in through the crack beneath the door. I couldn't bring myself to call her or knock on her door, not yet. Something about seeing her there, laughing so naturally, unsettled me in ways I couldn't explain. It wasn't just jealousy. It felt like I had stumbled into a version of her life that I wasn't supposed to see, like I was peeking into a parallel world where I didn't belong. Around midnight, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my room key and stepped out into the hallway. The hotel was eerily quiet now, the kind of silence that makes every creak of the carpet feel deafening. I wandered, trying to clear my head, but as I walked past the conference rooms on the ground floor, I heard voices. One of them was hers. I pressed my ear closer to the door, feeling like a complete creep but unable to stop myself. The voices weren't serious or businesslike. They were playful, teasing. I heard her laugh again, and then a male voice, low and warm, say something that made her laugh even harder. My throat went dry. I pulled away from the door, heart pounding, and decided I needed to see for myself. The room had a window that looked out onto the courtyard, and I managed to find a side hallway with a view inside. What I saw made my chest tighten. Aria was sitting at a small table with 2 other colleagues, but there was one guy, dark hair, sharp suit, who was leaning a little too close. He was telling a story, gesturing with his hands, and every time he made a joke, she touched his arm while laughing. It could have been harmless. Maybe it was. But the sight of it twisted something inside me. I wanted to storm in there and say, "Hey, remember me? The husband who waters your plants and waits for your texts?" But instead, I just stood there like an idiot, frozen. After a while, they all stood up. I ducked out of sight, my breath shaky. I heard their footsteps approaching, their voices muffled, and then I saw them walk out into the courtyard. They didn't see me. I watched as Aria and the man, let's call him Mr. Perfect for now, walked side by side, a little too close for my comfort. Something inside me snapped. I needed answers. I needed to know why my wife, who barely smiled at me on our last date night, looked like she was glowing around this stranger. I followed them. I followed them from a distance, my sneakers sinking silently into the soft carpet as I trailed through the long hallway that led to the open courtyard. The hotel's outdoor area was almost cinematic, string lights hanging above, casting warm golden circles onto the stone pathway, the faint sound of a fountain trickling in the middle. At this hour, it felt like another world, quiet and isolated. And there they were, Aria and Mr. Perfect. She was standing with her back against the low stone wall near the fountain, her face glowing in the soft light. He stood close, not touching her, but close enough that if I walked past them on the street, I'd assume they were together. I couldn't hear everything they were saying, but I caught snippets. His voice low and smooth, her laugh occasionally breaking the silence. Every time she smiled at him, it felt like a knife in my chest. That smile used to be mine. I ducked behind one of the pillars, my heart pounding so hard I was sure they'd hear it. I told myself I'd only watch for a minute, that I'd leave before I did something stupid. But then I saw her reach for his arm when she laughed, and my brain short-circuited. I couldn't tell if I was imagining the intimacy or if it was real. Then something strange happened. He pulled something from his pocket and handed it to her. It looked like a hotel room key. My stomach churned. She hesitated for a moment, holding the key card between her fingers, her expression unreadable. Then she tucked it into her pocket and looked around the courtyard, as if checking if anyone was watching. That's when I realized I had been holding my breath. I was about to step out, to confront them right then and there, but my phone buzzed in my pocket. The sound was deafening in the silence. Her head snapped up. I froze. For one terrifying second, I thought her eyes met mine through the shadows. She didn't see me. She turned back to Mr. Perfect, said something I couldn't hear, and started walking toward the lobby. He stayed behind, leaning against the fountain, checking his phone like nothing was out of the ordinary. I stumbled back, my heart hammering like I'd just run a marathon. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock my phone to silence it. I didn't know what to do. Every rational thought told me to just walk up to her to say, "What the hell is going on?" But another part of me, maybe the cowardly insecure part, needed to know more before I confronted her. I needed to be sure. So I waited. From my spot near the hallway, I watched her head toward the elevators. She pressed the button and stepped inside, alone. My mind was a whirlwind of panic and anger and fear. Why would she take a keycard from him? Why would she hide it? I decided I was going to find out exactly what room he was staying in, even if it meant doing something reckless. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed with my mind spinning like a broken record, replaying the scene in the courtyard over and over again. The way she laughed, the way he handed her that key card like it was some kind of secret. I told myself I was overreacting, that maybe it was nothing, maybe it was something work-related, but my gut wasn't buying it. I know my wife. I know the way her eyes light up when she's truly engaged with someone, and that look, I hadn't seen it directed at me in months. It burned a hole in my chest just thinking about it. I needed answers, and I needed them now. Sitting around drowning in paranoia wasn't going to cut it. So I did something I'm not proud of. I grabbed my room key, pulled on a hoodie, and slipped out into the hallway like some kind of amateur detective in a bad TV drama. The hotel at 2 a.m. was eerily silent. The carpets muffled every step, and the only sound was the hum of the vending machine near the elevators. I headed down to the courtyard again, but Mr. Perfect was gone. The only thing left was the faint smell of cologne in the air, like the night itself was mocking me. I decided to find out which room he was staying in. I remembered the lanyard he wore. It had the logo of their company branch. If he was part of Arya's exchange team, then his floor would likely be the same as hers. I know this sounds crazy, but I actually waited by the elevator for nearly 20 minutes, pretending to scroll through my phone, just to see if I could catch sight of him returning to his room. My heart was racing every time the elevator dinged. Every door opening felt like a trigger, like I was about to get caught doing something I couldn't explain. Then it happened. He stepped out of the elevator, looking tired but still sharp in that annoyingly perfect way. I stayed far enough behind, pretending to be lost, as I watched him swipe into his room. 432. I memorized the number like it was a secret code to the answers I desperately needed. I didn't sleep after that. Instead, I stared at the ceiling, wondering what the hell I was going to do. I felt like I was unraveling. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined what that keycard meant. Was it his? Did he give it to her for some stupid reason? Was she going to meet him there? The next day I saw her at breakfast. She didn't know I was there, but I spotted her across the restaurant, sitting with the same group of colleagues, looking like the happiest person in the world. My stomach knotted as I noticed her hand casually slip into her pocket, where she had put the key card last night. She still had it. I couldn't take it anymore. I decided I was going to find out what was inside room 432, even if it meant breaking every ounce of trust and dignity I had left. I spent the entire morning pacing my room, rehearsing a dozen different excuses for what I was about to do. I wasn't thinking clearly, but clarity wasn't exactly an option when every nerve in my body screamed that something was wrong. I kept telling myself that I wasn't doing this out of malice. I was doing it because I needed to know the truth before I spiraled into a pit of assumptions and sleepless nights. The problem was, every time I imagined what I might find behind that door, I felt like I was going to throw up. Around noon, I made my move. I waited until I saw Mr. Perfect, whose real name I still didn't know, leave the lobby with the other colleagues, heading out for some kind of group outing. My heart was pounding so hard I swear the receptionist could hear it. I followed at a distance to confirm he was gone, then slipped back into the elevator, pressing the button for the 4th floor like I'd just signed my own arrest warrant. Room 432. Standing in front of it, I felt my breath catch. I didn't even know if I had the guts to do this. My plan was ridiculous. I'd knock. If no one answered, I'd test the handle. I had no key, no right to be here. But the sheer idea of my wife's keycard burned in my mind. Why did she have it? Why was she hiding it? I knocked. Silence. I knocked again, quieter this time, like I didn't really want anyone to hear. Still nothing. My hand shook as I tried the handle. Locked. I stood there for a full minute, sweating and debating whether I should just walk away and pretend none of this ever happened. But then I had an idea, one that I still can't believe I actually went through with. I went down to the front desk, pretending to be the clumsy, forgetful guy I truly am. I told them I'd accidentally left something in a friend's room and asked if they could let me in. They weren't supposed to, of course, but I guess I looked desperate enough that the young woman at the desk sighed and agreed to help, after I rattled off the name I'd seen on his lanyard. When the door finally clicked open, I stepped inside like I was entering another dimension. The first thing I noticed was how neat the room was. Almost too neat, like it hadn't been lived in at all. His suitcase was in the corner, partially unzipped, with clothes folded so precisely it looked like a store display. But it wasn't the suitcase that made my stomach turn. It was the photograph on the nightstand. It was a picture of my wife, Aria, a casual one I'd taken of her last summer, sitting on our porch drinking iced tea. It wasn't some generic office photo. It was our photo, one that I'd never seen posted anywhere. My knees went weak. How the hell did he have that? I scanned the rest of the room, panic rising like a tidal wave. On the desk, there was a notebook filled with scribbles I couldn't make sense of. Some pages had her name on them. Aria, written in different styles, with small notes in the margins. It didn't look romantic, it looked obsessive. I grabbed my phone, snapping photos of everything, hands shaking so hard the images were blurry. Then I heard it. Footsteps in the hallway. I panicked. I barely had time to duck into the bathroom and press myself against the wall as the door handle turned. The bathroom was small, and my back was pressed against the cool tiles as I tried to slow my breathing. My pulse was pounding so hard that I could hear it in my ears. The sound of the keycard unlocking the door sent a chill down my spine. I had seconds to decide if I should bolt or hide, and for some reason, I stayed. Maybe it was fear, maybe curiosity, or maybe I just wanted to see this guy up close. This man who had a picture of my wife like she belonged to him. The door clicked open, and I heard the soft creak of the floor as someone stepped inside. Keys clinked against the table, and the zipper of the suitcase rasped as it opened. I could see his shadow moving through the thin gap under the bathroom door. My throat tightened. If he found me, what would I even say? Hey, I'm just the guy whose wife's photo you apparently stole. No big deal. I felt like an idiot, but the anger burned hotter with every second I stood there. I tried to listen, piecing together what he was doing. Papers rustled, then there was a sound like a drawer being opened. And then I heard something that stopped me cold. He was talking to someone on the phone. I saw her this morning. She's perfect. Better than I imagined, he whispered. I felt my stomach twist into knots. He wasn't talking about some random woman. He was talking about Aria, my Aria. I clamped my hand over my mouth to stop myself from gasping out loud. I needed to get out of there, but every time I thought about moving, I pictured him turning around and catching me crouched like a criminal in the bathroom. I waited for what felt like an eternity, hoping he would leave, but then I heard the sound of footsteps coming closer. He was heading straight for the bathroom door. My entire body went rigid. I grabbed the first thing I could find, a tiny can of air freshener, and prepared myself like that would somehow help. The handle of the bathroom door rattled. My breath caught in my throat. But just before he opened it, his phone rang again. A different ringtone, loud and shrill. Yeah? No, I'll be down in 5, he said, sounding annoyed, before I heard him toss something onto the bed. His footsteps retreated, the the front door clicked, and then there was silence. I stayed frozen for another full minute, terrified that he might come back. Finally, I pushed the door open and stepped out, my hands shaking violently. I didn't waste a second. I snapped a few more photos of the notebook, grabbed the picture of Arya off the nightstand, I needed proof, and slipped out of the room like a fugitive. My heart was still pounding when the elevator doors closed, and I could see my reflection in the metal walls. I looked pale, sweaty, like a man who'd just seen something he wasn't supposed to. Back in my room, I sat on the bed, staring at that photo of Arya. How long had this guy been watching her? How did he even get this picture? I wanted to call her right then and there, demand answers, but another part of me wondered if she even knew. What if she had no idea she was being watched? Or worse, what if she did? That night, I barely slept. Every sound in the hallway made me jump. I kept staring at the door, half expecting him to knock, or worse, to barge in. By 3 a.m., I knew I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. I needed to confront her, even if it meant tearing open something I wasn't ready to see. The next morning, I saw her in the lobby, standing with her coworkers. She looked so normal, so relaxed, like nothing was wrong. I started walking toward her, ready to demand the truth. But then I saw him, Mr. Perfect. He was standing just a few feet behind her, staring at her like she was the only person in the world, and she didn't even notice. I walked toward her with my pulse pounding in my ears, every step feeling heavier than the last. My plan had been to grab her arm, take her somewhere private, and demand to know why that man had a photo of her in his room. But as I got closer, I started to hesitate. She was standing there with her colleagues, smiling in that carefree way that I hadn't seen in months, and I suddenly felt like the insane husband who'd gone off the rails. What if I confronted her, and it turned out to be nothing? What if I was about to embarrass her in front of everyone? I slowed down, my nerves unraveling, and then I saw him, Mr. Perfect, leaning casually against a pillar, staring at her. He wasn't smiling. His eyes followed her every move, with a cold intensity that made my skin crawl. I decided to wait until she was alone. I didn't have to wait long. 10 minutes later, I found her near the coffee station in the lobby, away from the group. I approached her slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. "Arya," I said, and when she turned around and saw me, her jaw dropped. "Nolan, what are you doing here?" Her eyes were wide with confusion, but not the guilty kind. She genuinely looked shocked, maybe even happy to see me. "I got sent here on business," I said, my tone sharper than I intended. "Why didn't you tell me you were staying at this hotel?" She tilted her head. "I didn't know which hotel they'd booked for me until I got here. What's going on? You look like you haven't slept in days." I wanted to blurt everything out right then, but I couldn't. Not in the middle of the lobby with people walking past us. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low. "Privately. Now." We went up to my room, and the second the door closed, I held up the photo I'd taken from 432. "Explain this," I demanded, my voice trembling. She stared at the photo, her face going pale. "Where did you get that?" "It was in a guy's room, room 432. He's in your group, isn't he? Dark hair, sharp suit. He gave you a key card last night. Don't even try to deny it. I saw everything." Her hands started shaking as she sat down on the edge of the bed. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Nolan, you don't understand. That man, his name's Declan, he's not just some coworker. I don't know how to say this. He's been following me. At first, I thought it was harmless, like he was just being friendly, but then he started showing up everywhere I went, even outside of work. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to freak you out." Her voice cracked as she continued. "Last night, he gave me a key card, said he wanted to talk in private, but I didn't go. I swear, Nolan, I didn't use it. I didn't know what to do, so I kept it because I was afraid of what he'd do if I refused outright. He's not normal." I sat down beside her, my mind spinning. I had gone from thinking she was hiding an affair to realizing she might be in danger. And if what she said was true, then Declan's obsession was far worse than I imagined. Before I could process it all, my phone buzzed with a message from the hotel front desk. It simply said, "We need to speak with you regarding a complaint from room 432. My blood ran cold. The moment I read that message from the front desk, I felt like the walls were closing in on me. Declan must have noticed something missing from his room. Maybe the photo of Arya I'd taken. And now he was dragging me into his twisted game. I turned to Arya, who looked pale but determined. "We have to end this," she said firmly. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I saw that fire in her eyes. The same fire that made me fall in love with her in the first place. We went down to the lobby together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever storm was waiting. Declan was there, standing near the reception desk, with a smug expression that made my blood boil. The hotel manager was speaking to him in a hushed tone, but the moment he saw us, his grin faltered. "Looking for this?" I asked, holding up the photo. His eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I thought he might lunge at me. But Arya stepped forward before he could say a word. "Enough, Declan," she said, her voice sharp and steady. "This ends now. I know what you've been doing, following me, watching me, and it's over. I've already spoken to HR, and if you try anything again, you'll be dealing with more than just company policies. You'll be dealing with the police." The look on his face was priceless, anger mixed with shock, like he hadn't expected her to fight back. For once, I didn't feel like the weak, nervous husband. I felt like someone standing beside the strongest person I knew, ready to protect her no matter what. The manager intervened, and within an hour, Declan was removed from the hotel. His belongings were packed up, and security escorted him out. The hotel even apologized to us, offering to move Arya to a different floor for her own safety. That night, as we sat on the balcony of my room, watching the city lights, I felt something shift between us. For weeks, I'd been so consumed by my own insecurities, thinking she was slipping away from me, but in reality, we'd both been dealing with a situation neither of us could have predicted. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner," Arya said softly, leaning her head on my shoulder. "I'm sorry I didn't trust you," I replied. "I should have known you better than that." She smiled, and for the time in a long while, it felt like we were on the same side again. We talked for hours, not just about what had happened, but about us, our life, and how we needed to start paying attention to each other again. Maybe this bizarre, terrifying ordeal was exactly the wake-up call we needed. So here I am, sharing this story with all of you on Forsaken Joe, because I know I'm not the only one who's ever jumped to the wrong conclusions or let fear take over. But sometimes, facing that fear, together, can lead to something stronger than before. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment where your trust in someone was tested in the craziest way possible, only for it to bring you closer? Drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to read them. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to Forsaken Joe for more unbelievable real-life stories like this one.